Welcome to That's Absurd. Please elaborate, a podcast that is now available in a live form.
I'm very excited.
You look it.
I am.
You're
I have my show shirt on.
You do have I'm jealous of your watermelon shirt. You're making me look bad. If this is your first time listening to the show, welcome. I am one of the usually 2, but this time 3 hosts that host it.
Yeah.
This is a show where we take weird, wacky, absurd questions from listeners or apparently random people off the street now.
Yeah.
And then we look for some sort of satisfying answer and we present them to each other. I'm Julian Huguet.
I am Trace Dominguez.
And joining us as our third musketeer today, we have a special guest. We're recording live from Smith College, and we brought in Smith's very own Naila Moriera. She has a PhD in geosciences from the University of Michigan, author of the upcoming children's book, Monarchs of Winghaven, co-director of the journalism concentration here at Smith College, and the science writing specialist at the Jacobson Writing Center. What other accolades need I shower upon you? Did I miss anything?
I also write poetry, and I am a science journalist, which is a big part of what brings me here.
Okay, but do you have a podcast? Welcome, Naila. I'm so happy to have you here today.
It is fantastic to be here.
Well, welcome everybody as well. We're going to launch into this thing with our first question, which comes from Smith's very own Weina.
Hi, my name is Weina, and my question is it possible to maintain a tunnel from one side of the Earth to the other? What would be the environmental effects of that?
Oh, tunnel from one side of the Earth to the other. I think this is a classic. This is a classic question that we've all thought about. In fact, when we brought this up, that we were going to tackle this, Naila, you had a very strong reaction.
Yes. No, it's impossible. I am a geologist.
Wait. Before we go into that, Weina, Smith College student, I just want to say, this is Naila Moriera, PhD in geosciences.
Yeah.
And Naila has office hours. So I just want to say, this feels like a lot of rigmarole. And also, for those who are not aware, Weina organized us being here.
So thanks to Weina.
Weina put together an event to ask me a question that she has easy access to an expert in within walking distance. But thank you so much, Weina.
I will say that I am an expert in aqueous geochemistry, which is a fancy way of saying water and sediment on top of the Earth. Oh. So you have a little room to educate me.
Oh, good. But it still sounds like you have a pretty firm grounding on what's going on inside the Earth as a whole.
I hope so.
So let's talk about a tunnel through the Earth.
Sure.
Why do you have strong feelings about this?
Well, so the first problem is that the deeper you go, the more you get squished, right? And so by the time you got a mile down, which I think we've only managed to get maybe 10 miles down. You might have looked this up.
Oh, I did.
Okay, I think we've only managed to drill down about 10 miles into the Earth. I could be off on that number, but you'd be pretty itty bitty, and that's that's a great distance before you get to the core.
Right.
And before you get to the core, you also have to pass through something that might be a little bit problematic for a tunnel, which is a layer of completely molten rock.
Right. The mantle, correct?
No.
Oh.
No, not the mantle.
Not the mantle.
The lower mantle.
We're splitting hairs here, but okay.
Splitting layers of Earth, really. Yeah.
But it's a long way down below the beginning of the mantle.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we've got layers of the Earth, right? Crust on the outside, mantle,
Yes.
then inner mantle,
Yes, then the lower mantle. Yeah,
Lower
you've got
mantle.
the upper mantle and then the lower mantle.
then outer core,
Yes,
then inner core.
that's right.
Okay. So at each phase, why is drilling through these counterproductive, let's say, right? Crust, I think we've covered, right? Squished, also gets very hot. Mantle. What happens at the mantle that makes it difficult to actually, build a tunnel through it?
Well, so the mantle's just really deep, and there'd be an extraordinary amount of pressure. So you'd have really serious engineering challenges down there. But I think it's really at the inner mantle where things become liquid, where you'd have difficulty maintaining any kind of structure, because any kind of structure that you could produce would probably just melt into smithereens.
Have you ever tried to dig in a swimming pool? Or like
I'm pretty sure that's one of the signs that you need to be institutionalized when you're just in the water. I have to make the hole through the water.
Get to the core.
Oh, there's Trace in the swimming pool again. So then below that, right, the outer core is liquid iron. basically, right? So I've looked up, apparently as hot as 6,000 degrees Celsius, which is the temperature of the surface of the sun, Weina. And then below that, inside the inner core, it's also extremely hot, but it's under so much pressure that this iron is acting like a plasma, is what I hear, basically.
That is actually new to me. So thank you for the education.
That's what I looked up on, again, some guy on the internet looked that up. So basically every step along the way, if you're actually trying to drill, it's quite difficult. For example, the highest melting point of a metal is tungsten, and that melts at about 4,300 degrees Celsius. And we're 1,000 degrees over that, but we're also under extreme pressure that's so high, it's actually 3.6 million atmospheres inside the inner core. That's what keeps it still acting like a big plasma ball.
So at the surface, we're at 1 atmosphere.
Yes.
That's a few more atmospheres.
About 3.6 million times more, yeah. Yeah, roughly. Still, we have tried digging a deep hole, at least to try and reach the mantle. The deepest hole that we have ever dug as humanity, it was done by the Soviets in Murmansk. It started in 1970. They dug for almost 20 years, and they reached a final depth of 40,230 feet. That's 7.6 miles.
Wow.
I was within the realm of averages.
Yeah.
There we go.
That's 12.2 kilometers deep. For context, the crust at that location is about 40 kilometers deep. So they made it only a third of the way through the crust of the earth before they had to call it quits.
Wow.
The whole Soviet Union collapsing probably also, there wasn't a lot of funding.
Yeah, there was like a whole
there.
Project management situation they had to deal with.
Yeah, it was so bad at the time, this is true, that the Soviet space program was hurting for money so badly they put Pizza Hut logos on the rockets like they were sponsored by Pizza Hut because they just were desperate for any sort of funding.
That's true.
So giant hole to nowhere, you could see how that would get cut in the budget.
Well, it depends. Maybe you could get like, I don't know, is there a sponsor for something like that you could get like maybe the Dunkin' Donuts people, you could get like a donut hole
and just dunk it really.
Just drop it in there.
Put a little coffee at the bottom.
Why not?
And lower it down for several hours.
Would it improve the flavor? We're in Massachusetts. We can't make fun of Dunkin'. They will kill us.
Yes, it is a crime.
We will not make it out.
It is a crime. Now, if you're thinking that this 1970s project to dig a really deep hole sounds like the country that lost the space race was like, well, check this out instead. You're right.
Gone to space?
Right.
Have you gone under the space?
So they made an effort there, but they ran into more issues than they expected. It was a lot hotter, a lot sooner than they were ready for. And the rock that they were starting to hit at that depth, they said that behaved sort of like plastic and they weren't able to dig any deeper.
Yeah.
So they basically call it quits in the early 90s. And yet the hole wasn't sealed until 2005.
Because they needed to get the donut holes out.
Yeah. Just fishing them out. One guy in Murmansk, Ivan.
Ooh, blueberry.
Have you got the last ball? Do you all want to see what the cover of the deepest hole in the world looks like?
Yeah.
It's that.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the deepest hole in the world. It's 9 inches wide, 23 centimeters. Which is good because I imagined that it was uncovered for a decade and like the Russian lassie or something, like a child fell into it and you'd have to get it like a Siberian husky like barking and somebody's like, what is it, lassie?
Well, Lassie, who has fallen into the hole?
Has Ivan fallen in whale? And then you have to dig child up. It's okay. A lot of people here don't know who Lassie is because you're all so young and vibrant. Okay. So that's the deepest we've ever dug. But there is a plan to actually try and dig all the way through the Earth's crust. This is a Japanese ship that is specially equipped to dig deeper. This is a project the Japanese government is trying to get going. And the reason they're using a ship is because they're going to try and burrow through the seafloor where the crust is thinner. Smart. Oh. There, it's only about 6 kilometers thick. And the goal is to reach the mantle and get fresh samples of that mantle. Apparently, this will tell them new and interesting things that looking at old mantle cannot tell them. You would probably know more about this than me.
Yes.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. I know more than you about it.
I do know more than you, as a matter of fact. What is it about fresh mantle that we're still like trying to get to that gooey
Does it have like a
layer?
good smell or something? Like?
Yeah. What will it tell us?
Well, so anytime that you have a thing that melts, only part of it melts because you get to a certain temperature, part of it melts, that little segment that melts, emerges as a magma, right? So it tends to rise because it changes it's less dense than the surrounding solid material, so it starts rising. So you get these, what we call partial melts. So all the rocks that we have from the mantle that are on the surface of the earth are just partial melts of the actual mantle, which means that we have to extrapolate what's in the mantle, both from what we get in the partial melt and from like calculations about density that we can kind of guess from the way the earth behaves. So as far as I understand, sampling the fresh mantle will allow us to see what's actually there, as opposed to extrapolating what's there from some segment of it that melted out and came to the surface.
Very cool. See, this is what I love, like researching this, for example. I learned that the Soviet project that seems quite ridiculous actually had some useful scientific goals. I'm used to looking at like a textbook, high school with like your geology layout of what the earth looks like and thinking like, that's what it looks like. We must know. But when they were digging this hole in the 70s, they realized like, oh, there isn't, we thought, a distinct like difference between a basalt layer and a granite layer or something like that. Like this discontinuity was missing. And so, they had to revise what they knew. And so just another reminder that, science is a process and we're always learning new things and updating what we know. And so reaching the mantle might actually end up we'll have to revise what we know once we actually get there.
Yeah. And I don't think since we've also never made it from the crust to the mantle, we're also just extrapolating what happens at the crust mantle boundary, right? So that might be a really interesting place to look at and see if there's anything unexpected that we didn't think was there.
The Moho discontinuity, I believe it's called. Yes, cool. I know this because the Americans also tried to dig a very deep hole and they called it the Mo hole as like a joke. Because it's named after.
I'm the only one in the room who laughed.
The only one. That's a geologist special joke.
Yeah, they're laughing in the back. So
geology students back there, yeah. Where my moholes at?
Moholes.
Okay. So, but let's imagine somehow, right? We do have the technology and the ability to drill all the way through this hole. This is a classic question that I love that the internet has talked about many times. And it lets us talk about this idea of like just traveling through the earth as a shortcut. And what's great about this is you could imagine basically stepping into a hole and accelerating down, just shooting through the earth. And then when you get past the middle of the earth, because gravity pulls things towards the center of an object's mass, by the time you get past it and get to the other side, it slows you down. And then when you get out of the hole, you can just step right off, like come to a complete stop. Now that only works in perfect high school physics problem land where the earth is like a uniform density and a sphere and it's perfect, like
air resistance
if say like the elevation
into account and
like the exit hole's like 100 feet higher than like the one you stepped into, you'll come up like 100 feet short. Anything like that. But in
so
this
you have to leave at
world,
the top of a mountain and get there in a valley.
Yes. You also need to have the hole be completely empty of air in a total vacuum. Because otherwise, you'll slow down like a skydiver reaches a terminal velocity and stops. So you need it totally empty, so there's no wind resistance. And you also need to not do it anywhere but the North and South Pole.
Why?
Because of something called the Coriolis effect.
Oh, right.
Right. So I'm sorry if I'm breaking this news to anybody here, but we're on a big spinning sphere-ish. Pretty close to perfect sphere.
Yeah, almost.
Yeah.
The comments, if there were comments on podcasts, they'd be
somebody,
like, it's an
actually,
spheroid,
yes,
dude.
And they'd be right, and there's nothing we could do about it. But basically, it's a ball.
Yeah.
Well, when we're on the surface of this ball, right, we're spinning around it. We make one full revolution every 24 hours. We're going pretty fast.
Yeah.
If you're on the equator, though, you're traveling as fast as you can go. But as you move north or south, to make that same trip, it's a shorter distance. So you aren't traveling as fast.
Right.
Same if you're traveling through the earth, right? If you go down, say, 100 miles, that part of the earth is not spinning as fast as the surface that you jumped off from. But you're still traveling that fast. So what would happen is you'd slam into the eastern wall of
you'd be hitting the walls
of the tunnel
on the way down.
Yeah, you'd just ricochet around.
Honestly, it sounds like a great cartoon.
So you could only do it at the North and South Pole, but I guess then we could finally connect those two. And the Coca-Cola commercials, sometimes they have like a polar bear and a penguin.
Yeah,
they don't live in the same place. This would be the only way that could happen.
They do live in the Bronx Zoo.
That does not count. Okay. So you'd have to do it at the North and South Pole. And I actually tried to calculate how long it would take you to fall through the Earth. And I just did some very basic math, right? This is the equation for the speed that gravity pulls you down. And when you fill in all these constants, the gravitational constant, the mass of the Earth, the radius of the Earth pulls you towards its center at 9.8 meters per second squared, right?
Right.
And so I just did that. I said, okay, well, the Earth is this big. The gravitational acceleration is this, but I know when I get to the end, I'll be back to zero. So I'll just calculate how long it takes me to get halfway and then double it.
Wait, Julian, are you doing math on
I'm
the
doing
podcast?
math. I'm trying not to do too much math on the podcast.
We try not to do math on the podcast.
But I calculated it would take about 38 minutes.
38 minutes?
To get all the way
38 minutes to
get all the
travel
way through?
from the North Pole to the South Pole.
In a tunnel?
In a tunnel, in a vacuum. So
How fast would you be going when you got to the middle?
Yeah.
Well, there's no air, so not supersonic. Supersonic, very fast.
And you'd be
Very,
going
very fast. Suffice it to say. Now, it turns out
Earth is big.
there's more complicated math because as you're falling towards the middle of the Earth, there's less Earth under you to pull you towards it. So gravity doesn't keep speeding you up as much. So if you rearrange all these equations, eventually you get this equation here at the bottom. The time it takes you to go, if you were to say, fall all the way down and go all the way back up, it would be equivalent to 2 times pi times the radius of the Earth to the 3/2 power over the square root of gravitational constant times the mass of the Earth. I know that's all very interesting. Here's the actual cool part. So that equation, when you plug everything in, works out to 42 minutes to travel just to one side, 84 minutes to go there and back. This is the exact same equation that you use to calculate how long it takes a satellite to orbit the Earth.
Whoa.
What?
Yeah, the math works out that way. They're all based on the same equations. So basically, if a satellite and you were to leave the North Pole at the same time, you would get to the South Pole at the exact same time and then meet up again at the North Pole at the same time.
Whoa.
Pretty cool.
That is cool.
The satellite's going way further.
Yes, but it's not slowing down and speeding up like you are.
Right.
Right. Then I found a paper that said, actually, because of that thick iron core, you can't just do the math that way. And the more effective way to do it would be basically what I did, and the real time would be 38 minutes. So sorry I wasted all your time with that. I apologize. Okay, clearly, I was falling down a rabbit hole here, looking into tunnels and through the Earth and how they could be done and then the math of how long it would take.
Like end to end Earth.
Yeah.
Like North Pole to South Pole.
And then I realized I haven't been answering Weina's question this entire time.
What do you mean?
Because Weina didn't ask about building a tunnel through the Earth. Weina asked about maintenance for the tunnel. Weina wants to know what it would take for this tunnel that's somehow already built to just maintain it.
In the podcast a lot, we talk about like when people ask these absurd questions, we're like, okay, well, we have an upcoming episode where what if there were no American continents?
Right.
And it's like, okay, so when did you make those disappear? Did you make them disappear at the beginning, or like a cold stone person just scraped it right off the Earth and put it, like got it out of there, you know? Like what would happen? And you can't like really model that.
Yeah.
So we just have a magic button that you hit. So there's a magic button.
So the magic button
you hit the magic
has
button.
built our tunnel.
Now there's a tunnel.
Actually, another thing I noticed, Weina doesn't specify it goes through the Earth. She just says it goes to the other side.
Oh.
This could be a very long conventional tunnel, and I've wasted, again, everybody's time, and I apologize for that. So let's just imagine that we have a tunnel, a completely normal tunnel.
Yeah, like a regular
that just
civil
goes
engineering
around the Earth.
project.
That's actually not that difficult. The only problem is it's impractical. This is the longest road tunnel in the world. It's the Lærdal Tunnel in Norway. Nailed it. It's so long that it's regularly broken up. It's 20 minutes to drive through, by the way.
That's a long time.
It is. It's 24 and a half kilometers. It's so long that occasionally they break it up with like natural caves that they've lit like this. So you don't just kind of zone out while you're driving through this very long tunnel and crash into a wall. So it's probably a good
That
idea.
would trigger my claustrophobic anxiety.
It's got rest areas for claustrophobic
As
people.
I go through tunnels, I'm always terrified that one end is going to, suddenly split and water's going to come rolling down on me, or there's going to be a fire in the middle, which is exactly what that looks like.
Yeah, there does look like fire.
It does
here.
look like, they said
I
it's
would
supposed to
panic.
be a calming sunrise. So it sounds like it's having the opposite
It's a murderous fire.
effect. But this is the longest tunnel in the world, and conceivably we could build really, really, really long tunnels, maybe as far as the other side. There's engineering issues of going through, say, faults or fissures or breaks or groundwater that wants to upset the tunnel.
Or the ocean.
The ocean is a big one, although that might actually be easier because they prefabricate ocean tunnel segments on land and then they just sink them and connect them together. Really boring through mountains and land might be the more difficult of the options. So if you find a really long path just through oceans, you could build Weina's tunnel. And then apparently, Weina, the key to tunnel maintenance is routine inspection, checking mechanical and electrical utilities.
Excellent.
Inspecting for deterioration and grading the tunnel performance. And, also try and report the cause of deterioration and check it if there's an event like an earthquake, a traffic jam or fire, something like that. So, I think that answers the first part pretty succinctly. And lastly, for environmental impacts, so this is Naila Moriera.
Yeah, maybe you've heard of her.
She teaches environmental communication here at Smith College, whereas I, some internet guy, do not. So I think, Naila, that's your area again.
That's my ball game.
Yeah.
To maintain the tunnel only. What would be the environmental impact?
As phrased by Weina.
Well, I imagine that it would come down to things like cleaning fluids and, asphalt, repair materials.
Right.
It would be a very long tunnel, so there'd probably be a lot of materials involved.
Okay.
And anytime you have materials, you're, mining stuff from the earth and creating mining effects, like from impacts on local landscapes where you're chopping the tops off of mountains to economic and social impacts where a lot of these mines are in places like Africa that don't have a lot of environmental regulations because it's much cheaper there. And so you can end up creating quite a lot of havoc on local infrastructure and environmental quality, like water quality and so forth, because there just aren't the rules to protect those folks.
There you go. Now, so Weina, regular inspection and try and have some strong environmental rules. And again, I'll remind you, I came from here. Naila was here the whole time. These are her office hours.
And you are always welcome to my office hours, folks.
So with that, let's take a quick break and come back with another question. Julian, give me your best dinosaur roar.
Oh, God, an asteroid! It's horrible!
Wow, that was not where I expected that to go. We're popping in before the show to tell you about I Know Dino. It's a dinosaur podcast.
We think of those dinosaurs being this thing that's been dead for tens of millions of years. Even so, studying dinosaurs can still teach us stuff that is relevant to the world today.
Yeah, like climate models to help us understand global warming.
Migration patterns of dinosaur lineages, they tell us about Earth's changing continents.
We can also study dinosaur diets, what plants lived then and maybe what animals and how they interact.
And, this is super cool, many dinosaur injuries, paleopathologies, they're the first known occurrences of diseases.
And they talk about all this kind of stuff on I Know Dino. It comes out every week with new dinosaur stories that you're not going to hear anywhere else. Like I hadn't heard of a lot of these, which is pretty cool.
You can find I Know Dino on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever podcasts are. And if you found us, you can probably find them. Go check them out.
All right, we're back. I hope everybody, really thought about the phrasing of their questions for the future, because it turns out that we are that pedantic when it comes to our questions. But next up, we have our guest. Naila, how are you?
I am doing great.
Okay, I'm sorry that Julian outsourced his question in part to you.
Twice.
Well, I am the geologist.
It's true.
So fair enough.
Listen, I know when to ask an expert, all right? Like, I'm just an internet guy, so...
But because I am a geologist, I thought it would be more interesting if I answered a question that had nothing to do with geology. And to be fair, it's been a long time since I've been a geologist. I've been a science writer on a more sort of overall level since I graduated from grad school in 2006. It's a lifetime ago. So I'm answering these geology questions from many, 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 many years back.
Okay.
Which means I have a great memory. No, just kidding.
Nice.
I have a terrible memory. But I wanted to start my question by asking, who here has allergies? Do either of you have allergies? You both have allergies. What kind of allergies do you have?
He's been sniffling this whole time.
Cat, dog, pollen, hard work.
Cat, dust,
lasting friendships.
Grass,
Yeah.
leaves.
All right.
Yeah.
I do not have allergies.
Wow, you're super.
Unless I have allergies to doing things in advance. I'm a big procrastinator. So
Okay, got
that's
it.
an audience who's got allergies. Wow, a lot of you.
We are a sickly lot.
Yes. So it turns out like a third of the American public has allergies. And
they're all here.
Yes. And over a quarter of those are hay fever, which is sort of the colloquial name for allergies to pollen, right? You breathe and your sinuses are like, don't ever do that again. So we can be allergic to plant pollen, or we can be allergic to things like, poison ivy. There's a lot of ways we can be allergic to plants.
Right.
So poison ivy has a toxin called urushiol, and that's the same irritant that's in poison sumac. So we got an interesting question from a Hampshire student called Billy. And they asked us, what if plants were allergic to us?
Yeah.
Yeah, take that.
That plants, stupid flowers, kick you in the face.
Wow.
So I have houseplants, and this kind of got me wondering, how do my houseplants experience me? Do they like me? Do they hate me? Do I make them sick? So I went down this rabbit hole. So, can a houseplant take chemical exception to us the way we take chemical exception to poison ivy or random bits of pollen floating through the air? So does anyone know what allergies are? Do you know what allergies are?
So allergies are your immune system responding to some sort of foreign object as though it's a threat, a pathogen, even though it's not.
Exactly. Right. Yes. So our allergies are created by these things called antibodies. And antibodies are proteins. They're created by our immune system, by some of the cells in our immune system called B cells. And these antibodies, they go searching around in your bloodstream and they find things that don't belong there, foreign substances, and they stick to them. And once the antibody sticks to them, it's like a little flag. And the soldier cells of the immune system come and like eat up all of the flagged nasty substances. And the human immune system is kind of amazing. It's called an adaptive immune system, which means that when it experiences a foreign substance once and recognizes it as a problem, it remembers that foreign substance and can find it faster the next time, basically by the B cells, which are also our memory cells, remembering that substance and like seeing it again and going into freak out mode.
Be like, yo, you came here last week and you need to get out.
We told you we don't like your types around here.
here.
Yeah, we should take advantage of that. Can you imagine taking like a little bit of a pathogen, like a non-harmful part of it?
Yeah, just a little bit of it. And then you maybe got to find a way to get it inside the body. But once you get it in there,
and then
I feel like then you would train the body.
Yeah, I mean, this is like an amazing idea. It would be like a vaccine.
I don't know about that, but okay.
No. Vaccines. Those are those things you're not supposed to give your kids.
No.
Because they cause autism, but they
small
don't.
Piece of pathogen that's actually harmless that then your body learns how to fight it. I think we're onto something with that.
There we go. We should do it. Yeah, we'd make a lot of money. And
that's why we're in it.
That's why we're in it.
We might also help some people.
We
might help some people.
Yeah,
that would be good.
Gotcha.
So plants don't have an immune system like we do. They don't have antibodies. And they don't have an adaptive immune system. They have just what's called an innate immune system, which means that all they're really capable of doing is being like problem thing and creating a response to problem thing. And so they don't really change over time the way we do. So, but it's even more complicated than this, which this was my personal rabbit hole, which I thought was really, really cool. We have 5 different antibodies, only 5. And they're called immunoglobulins. And scientists have come up with some really, really creative, smart names for these 5 different immunoglobulin A, D, E, G, and M.
Inspired.
And B and C and all the other letters in between
they got ditched.
It's like why there's not B batteries.
Okay.
It's just there's A,
there
there's
are no
double
B
A,
batteries?
there's triple A,
There's
there's
no B
C,
batteries.
there's D. That's fine. You don't need B.
I never noticed that.
Every day.
So it turns out only immunoglobulin E creates allergies.
That traitor.
I know, it's terrible. So it creates allergic reactions because it triggers a chain of events in our immune cells, which makes our body release the chemicals that create like the allergy response. So histamines. Yes, there you go. That's the major one.
When you take antihistamines,
you feel better.
I hate antibody E.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan.
What did it ever do for us? It's
Not a
probably
fan.
super vital, and if we took it away, we'd die like tomorrow,
Well,
I'm guessing.
so this is really cool. They think it's actually a late evolving antibody because it's only present in mammals. So not only can plants not have allergies because they don't have immunoglobulin E and they don't have an immune system, or they don't have an adaptive immune system like we do, but like crocodiles can't have allergies either. Because they don't have immunoglobulin E. And they think that the reason that immunoglobulin E is in our bodies is because it reacts to two major categories of things. One is parasites, like hookworms, for example. It can like help clear hookworms from the lungs, or like venoms, so bee stings or snake bites. So it's specifically designed to respond to these particular challenges.
It sounds like it's kind of in beta then. Like it's okay, but it's still got some kinks to work out, and we need like a couple more 100,000 years to really...
I think that might be it.
Okay. Evolution was like, we're pretty good. Let's ship it. Let's just get it out there. And now we all have to live with that.
Sneeze a little bit, die of hookworm in our lungs. I'll go with sneezing sometimes uncomfortably. Okay.
Right.
I'll take that trade-off.
So, but then I still had this sort of lingering question, right? Like, okay, well, how are my houseplants reacting to me? How do they feel about me? Do I bother them? Do they like me?
Wow, this is a thing that maybe you should explore with a therapist. There's a lot of questions you have here. And they're good questions. We just need to unpack them. You know?
I can just see the therapist having a potted plant in the corner, though, and the whole time she's afraid to open up because she just thinks it's judging her.
Or maybe she like talks to it when everybody else leaves the room.
Yeah, right.
Like, oh my God, that person was just in my office.
Did you hear that? Oh my.
That person's got some problems.
So first of all, plants do have proteins. They're not quite antibodies, but they do have proteins that react to problems. So if they are cut or if they are damaged in some way, these proteins kind of go into overdrive and tell the plant to do things. And it turns out the plants have amazing abilities that feel kind of almost human. Like plants can hear.
Yeah.
Which I think is, you know this.
I know this.
What do you know about plants hearing?
Well, I mean, it's not hearing like we hear, you know, well, it is. And sound is a pressure wave. So they hear it in the way that it kind of vibrates the plant itself. And they can react to that vibration, similar to our eardrum reacting and sending signals through into our brain. So plants are able to react to those sound waves in the same, and it's similar to how we do because they vibrate, but I don't remember much else after that. Like, what do they do with that information?
What do they do with that? They do some really cool things with that. So one thing that they can do, if you play them the sound of caterpillars chewing, they generate a defense chemical against caterpillars.
Whoa.
Wow.
Yeah.
Same.
If you play...
Shouldn't have worn that watermelon shirt then. You're just asking for a caterpillar attack.
I need to know more about this. But we can talk about it later.
Yeah, I have to pick him off of his back every morning.
Yeah, they can grow towards the sound of water.
Neat.
Oh.
Yeah. If they hear honeybees buzzing, they produce more nectar.
Oh, wow.
It's pretty wild.
That is cool.
Wow,
Yeah.
neat. Plants are neat.
Yeah, and if you talk to them, in fact, you know, so there was this sort of story out there that if you talk to your plants, they would grow more. And people were like, oh, it's because, you know, you have carbon dioxide in your breath. And so you breathe on them and that, you know, that stimulates their growth because they, you know, they take in carbon dioxide.
More like an engineer, how an engineer would look at that relationship.
Exactly.
It's just like, no, you give them carbon dioxide and they give you nothing and it's fine.
Right.
And they grow.
But researchers at the Royal Horticultural Society put headphones on the pots of tomato plants.
Oh, I thought it was on the plants. I was like,
no, I think it was just on the pots.
Just on the pot.
I don't know
But
how
that's
you would
still
put
fun.
headphones on a plant. They
I
have
don't
to be
either.
really
I wanted
small.
to know.
That
Yeah.
would be pretty cool.
Maybe tape. I don't know.
But they played them literary and scientific texts for a month.
Oh, wow. Wow.
I wonder how they chose the texts
Yeah,
personally,
definitely.
or if they
Jeez.
played them, you know,
Some
like
nerds
Saturday
were like,
Night
this
Live or
stimulates
something.
me. Like,
If it would be better or worse. But they did grow more than the ones that weren't read to. And get this, the ones who were read to by female voices grew 1 inch more than the ones who heard male voices.
Whoa. That's awesome.
that's why it's
There you go,
Mother
ladies.
Nature.
I love that.
There we
That's
go.
cool.
We're at
Interesting.
Smith College. We get applause. So I think the upshot of that is talk to your plants.
Yeah.
And then the next question is, can plants talk to us? Ooh. So it turns out that plants can scream in response to stress,
Same.
which I think is really interesting. if you, and they scream differently if you cut them than if they dry out.
Oh.
I'm not
So-
going to ask the same
when they
joke
dry
again.
out.
Well, if you cut them, it's shorter. It's like, and if they dry out, it's like, yeah, basically.
wow.
And so
It's a horror movie out there. You just look out at a field, it's beautiful grass,
Screaming.
and somebody's like cutting the grass, and you're like,
Screaming.
wow.
And they're screaming.
And it's just, that's a slaughter.
Yeah. So it turns out that I have a thesis student right now. So I work with thesis students on their writing at the Jacobson Writing Center at Smith College. And so I'm working with a thesis student on his writing. His name is Avery, and he's actually studying the exact process that causes this scream. He's studying something called cavitation.
Yeah.
Which is a fancy word, but it's when a bubble develops in the vessels of the plant that transfer water from the bottom of the plant to the top. It's called the xylem. There you go.
Yeah.
And so when this bubble forms, it kind of forms and it expands and then it collapses, and that causes a screaming sound.
Wow.
So it's like the plant's getting the bends.
Yeah, actually.
Or, yeah, like a bubble in a hydraulic system is surprising to me. That there's a way to do that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So they do scream if they're stressed, but they probably don't talk to you in any other ways that we know of as of now.
Even
So,
though we're whispering sweet nothings into their roots.
I guess not. Yeah. So I
one-way
talked to
relationship.
Avery's faculty advisor here at Smith, and I said, well, what can we do to make our houseplants like us? Maybe if they liked us enough, they would start talking.
Yeah.
And she said, well, I think it would depend how you treat them. If you're a good steward of their environment, they'll love you. But if you're not a good steward of their environment, they're going to hate you. Yes. And she pointed out that her favorite plant was her peace lily because it had an extremely low tolerance for drought. And she said it was always the first communicator to me that it was just dying of thirst. They're comical. If you go like 2 days without watering them, they're like, bleh. So I don't know if anyone has a peace lily, but if you're really bad at watering your plants, you might consider getting a peace lily because it will remind you.
It's like very dramatic.
Yes.
Like, oh my God, I need water forever. I love it. That's
My
great.
roots are so parched.
So Julian has a theater degree,
Yeah, you could tell.
and there we go. We can tell.
Sure do.
So I think that's my question.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay. So to summarize, no, not allergic to you, but they do have ways of responding to some sort of external threats, and they do have some way of like kind of communicating and being aware of their environment.
Yeah. And I mean, we could even go further down that rabbit hole because trees actually send out compounds to one another. So in the forest, if some caterpillars start chewing on one side of the forest, the trees send out these volatile organic carbon or compounds rather, VOCs, to the other side of the forest. And the other side of the forest will start producing defense chemicals against the pathogen.
Cool.
I love
Yeah.
that. That's so cool.
That's amazing. Well, Naila, that was fantastic. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Let's take another break.
All right, welcome back. We've talked about holes through the earth. We've talked about allergic plants not reciprocating our love or allergens. One more question, Trace. What is it?
My question comes from Sarah, a Smith student, who asks, is there a quantity of fireflies that could blind someone? And I thought, I'm going to find out. Did you ever watch Smallville?
No.
The television show Smallville? It's on the WBCW channels.
That's the one with like the young Clark Kent.
Well, young Clark
Superman.
Kent, young Superman. It's episodic every week, 20 minutes to get a little like, ooh, some romance and like some bad guys. Okay, I thought maybe at least somebody would watch Smallville. I watched
they're young.
all
They're so
of the
much younger than
episodes
us
of
here.
Smallville. It was great. Every episode, Superman, if you know Superman, right? He lives in Kansas. Well, Clark Kent lives in Kansas. He's an alien, doesn't like kryptonite famously. But other people exposed to kryptonite would get crazy powers in every single episode. And there were, I wrote it down, 217 episodes of this show. So that's 217 different times that somebody in this tiny town was exposed to kryptonite and made themselves some weird superpower.
Sounds like a hazardous waste disposal issue. Somebody
It
from the
really-
government ought to step
right?
in.
It's kind of a big deal. And it's always the same. It followed the same pattern every time. It was like Beaver Boy because he happened to be eating something when he got exposed to kryptonite. So he turned into a Beaver Boy. Like it was always that silly. Or like the crossing guard. I don't know. Like it was whatever they were doing at the time they were exposed.
Right. That's how superpowers work.
They just became
We all know this.
that.
Something embarrassing when you touch the kryptonite.
Exactly.
Right.
Because that's going to be you forever.
It's Toilet Girl.
So I thought about it and I was like, Firefly could totally be one where like you're out hunting for fireflies and you run upon some kryptonite. Now you're a firefly too.
Yeah.
There's a point to me bringing this
Yes,
up.
this
Okay.
is
We're going to
going
come back
somewhere.
to this in the end. So fireflies, how many people have caught fireflies caught them in jars or just like gone out and explored and seen fireflies? Right. Most people, it's very common. Fireflies go by lots of different names. Did everybody call them fireflies or do you have different names for them?
Lightning bugs.
Lightning bugs. Yeah, we call them lightning bugs in Michigan, where I was from. Moon bugs, sometimes they're called, or blinkies. Again, we call them lightning bugs. They exist on every continent in the world except Antarctica. There are
Until
approximately...
the tunnel opens.
Until the tunnel opens. Someday. Hey. 2,400 different species of firefly on the planet.
Wow.
And technically, it's a winged beetle in the Lampidae family.
Okay.
So they're mostly found in tropical or more humid areas of the planet, and they flash, which is known within the scientific community as bioluminescence. We see this a lot in a variety of different species, and they're all amazing. Anytime you can experience bioluminescence in person, it feels like the first time you saw fireflies. You're just like, this looks like magic, but it's not, it's science. So there are fireflies. I'm just going to like kind of nerd out about fireflies for a minute.
You have my permission.
I didn't know this, but there are fireflies that synchronize across within their species. So like a female firefly might not be able to fly, so it sits on a plant, and a male firefly is flying around and like flashing his butt and being like, hey, 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 hey.
Check me out.
And then the female's like, cool. And then the male flies over. There's ones that synchronize all together as a group. So all the males flash at the same beat, all like constantly. And so there's thousands of fireflies and they're all turning themselves on and off and on and off at the same time, like coordinated across an entire swarm. It's amazing. Some are green, some are blue, some flicker like candle flames and like campfires, and some don't light up at all. Not all fireflies in this group will even glow. Some use pheromones to communicate instead, which is pretty neat.
We don't judge them for that.
We don't. We're just like,
I
you know
judge them.
some are fabulous and some are, just whatever. They glow because this is just one way for them to attract a mate. The male firefly, called colloquially the Big Dipper, makes
The male came up with that name.
Yeah,
didn't
of course he did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes a J-shaped glow for about 1 second. So it's like flying along and then it kind of does a little swoop while it's glowing. So it makes a little J in the air. And it's like the Firefly version of like, you up?
Mm.
And then the female firefly waits exactly 2 seconds and then flashes for a half a second, which is like thumbs up emoji. I think that's pretty much it. And they also use it to communicate territorial displays, to scare away predators, and to talk to each other. There are 2 chemicals that are involved in firefly glowing, luciferase and luciferin, and they interact in different ways to cause this bioluminescence. Scientific American writes it up like this, quote, oxygen combines with calcium, adenosine triphosphate, and the chemical luciferin in the presence of luciferase. What's adenosine triphosphate, Julian?
ATP, baby, the energy currency of the cell made
Heck yeah.
the mitochondria. Good.
We need a soundboard that says the powerhouse of the cell.
Powerhouse of
we don't
the
have
cell, and then like a lightning.
So luciferin is a heat-resistant chemical, and luciferase is an enzyme. It's an enzyme that glows in the presence of ATP. Every living thing runs, if you're not aware, on ATP. We need it to survive. It is what we use to make everything in every cell in our body. We all need ATP. Entomologists think that the insects control how much oxygen goes into their kind of glowy bums, and then that causes this glow inside of them. I like to think of it as like because they're controlling the oxygen, they can push more oxygen into the area and glow brighter if they want, or glow dimmer. I like to think of it kind of like bearing down, like you had a really big meal and it's maybe several hours later and you're just like, "Argh!" And in their case, they're glowing. And in our case, Wow.
I'm not familiar with this post-meal feeling that you described. That might be something to get looked at.
So the fireflies aren't very bright. We've all seen them out in a very dim, like a sunset time. They tend to be out about that time. But we need to understand, if we're going to figure out if they're bright enough to blind us, we need to know about blinding us as well. We need to know what the goal is, right? Before we can really talk about how many there are.
So how much light it takes to blind a person, and then divide by number of fireflies or something.
Exactly. Perfect.
Okay.
So first, when you are blinded, you are damaging your photoreceptor cells, right? So you're literally physically damaging the cells at the back of your eye when you are getting blinded. You can be temporarily blinded at a pretty low amount of light, but I'm kind of getting ahead of myself because light is complicated.
Oh, no, not this again.
It's tough.
Yeah.
If you want to describe how bright something is, how many different ways do you think you can describe that? Think about it for a second. You've got the thing itself that's shining a light. How much light is coming out of it? But it could be going in every direction. It can be going in one direction. And then the light comes out and it falls on things. It hits a wall. It hits a plant. It hits something else. The wall isn't as reflective as the plant. So then they're getting absorbed at different rates. And then they're reflecting back off of that again. And so we have measures to describe all of these different things. And let me tell you, firefly scientists are not consistent about which ones they use when talking about fireflies. So these all have different names. There's candela, there's lumens, there's lux, and you hear about all of these in different contexts. And so a lumen is the total light output of a source. So a light bulb that emits light that's usually measured in lumens. If you've bought an LED light bulb for any reason, they usually say it's a lumen. A 60 watt equivalent is about 800 lumens of light. However, a candela is intensity of light in a specific direction. It's actually an ISO standard, which is pretty cool.
Oh, okay.
And it's using, I'm going to read this to you. A candela is the amount of light emitted in one steradian from a source with a monochromatic radiation spectrum centered at 540 or 1012 hertz and a radiant intensity of 1/683rd watt.
So what are you doing after this? Do you want to hang out? Or?
And you were complaining about Julian doing math?
Yeah, I showed 2 equations on a board.
So the thing that tripped me up there was steradian, because I wasn't familiar with that. Imagine a ball with a point in the very center of the ball, and then there's a cone that stretches to just one edge of the ball, almost like there's a flashlight pointed in that direction. That cone is a steradian. It's a standard unit of measure, apparently, and so there's one steradia. And so candela is the amount of light emitted by a source in one direction that fills one steradia.
Okay.
Very difficult to understand. And then there's lux, which is how much falls onto a surface. So you're measuring, a 1 square meter surface. This is how much light fell onto it. And remember how I said there were 3? There's actually way more than 3 ways to measure light. And we'll get into another one in a minute.
I just looked up the sun and they gave it to me in watts.
Yeah, that's another way to think about it. And it's actually, this is sort of a sidebar, but I didn't have this written down. It's really silly that we use 60 watt light bulbs as like a normal measure, but we really do, in the United States at least, because an incandescent light bulb, one with a filament in it, they could range in wattage, but a 60 watt one was a very common one.
Right.
But because there are so many different ways to measure light, and people generally had 60 watt light bulbs, they're like, okay, so this is like a 60 watt light bulb, and this one's like a 100 watt light bulb.
But the watt is how much power it's using.
And 90%
it's nothing
of that
to do with
was
how
heat.
bright it is. Yeah.
90% of that is heat.
Most of it's power
like,
waste.
Incandescent is very inefficient. And so it's like an LED light bulb that's a 60 watt equivalent is only 9 watts, but it's making 800 lumens, unless you're counting how the lumens are falling on stuff. And then it's a whole different measure. And it's just like,
are you okay? This sounds like this one really got to you.
It's really tough. So candela is probably the best way to measure fireflies,
Let's
but
go with
none of the scientists tend to do that, except for a study I found, I kid you not, from 1912, where they say the Jamaican firefly flashes at about 1/50th a candela, but mostly 1/400th, but at brightest 1/50th of a candela. Okay. So we were going to talk about eyeballs for a second, but you get blind by your eyes experience light and it's physically absorbing that light energy. And if it has too much energy to absorb, it overwhelms it.
Okay.
And they can physically damage the eyeball cells. And they can recuperate themselves, regenerate and heal. But if it all happens at once, that's how you can get this temporary blindness. Everybody has been in a dark room and somebody turns on a bright light and you just can't see for a second.
Mm-hmm.
Your eyeball cells have literally turned themselves off to be like, whoa, how much light is coming in? Okay, it's an okay amount of light. Now we'll be okay again. So it protects not only the cells themselves, but also your brain. Because again, these are all physical manifestations of stuff that you're sensing. So your optic nerve can get overwhelmed. It can be a big problem if you see a very bright light, especially if it was very dark. So I looked up flashlightreviews.org, and they say that in a very dark environment, that temporary blindness can be caused by something as low as 80 lumens.
Oh, how many candelas to a lumen now? Or?
Yeah, so now we have to figure out lumens. But in daytime, it could be 200 lumens, which is still less than a 60-watt light bulb, which is a stupid measure, but that's what we got. They also say that anytime you expose somebody to about 3,000 lumens, which is a lot, that can cause temporary blindness, no matter if it's bright out or not. And 10,000 lumens would damage your eye cells so much that they would never come back. You'd be damaging them permanently, and you'd cause blindness.
And that's like the sun. So don't look at the sun.
The sun
is kind of what you're getting at.
Or very strong lasers. Because again, remember, the measure of a lumen is light, what?
Falling on a specific area.
So a sun is like, you're talking about lumens that stretch to other
in every
stars,
direction,
right? So the lumens of a sun is a ridiculous amount. But a lumens of a laser is such a small area. So it can be very, very high lumens in a very small area, which means 10,000 lumens is not actually that much for a powerful like green laser. You can blind people with ones you get off of Amazon, which is why they don't want you to shine them in the sky or at your friends.
And like pilots trying to land a plane.
Exactly. It literally kills the cells in your eyes, which is wild. According to an optometrist website that I found, where a lot of optometrist websites like to talk about this stuff, and they all use different units as well, but they said that with every bright flash from something like an explosion, if you witness that, your vision will return to normal within a couple of minutes. It's pretty quick that they recover, but it will take longer at night. And I use that as an example because if we're trying to temporarily blind someone with fireflies, like some kind of, Bond villain, we need probably to be in a dark environment, and we can use as little as 80 lumens to achieve temporary blindness. So I think that gives us enough information to at least get started with. We need a swarm of fireflies that can create enough candela or lumens or whatever we're going to use to blind someone. And that quantity in nature does not exist. There would never be enough fireflies all pointed in the same direction to cast enough light onto an area as small as your eyeball with a power of 80 lumens.
So that's good news.
In a dark environment. They'd have to all work together. It would be very difficult, and they aren't actually that bright. The comprehensive list of 2,400 species of firefly and their brightness, that doesn't exist. So if there are any scientists who want to learn that in this room right now, get going. Okay, we can have like a spreadsheet. It'll be great. Doesn't exist. However, the Guinness Book of World Records, one of our favorite places,
the most reliable source,
so reliable, says that the brightest bioluminescent species on the planet is actually a firefly. Any guesses which one?
I mean, I can see the next slide, so I'm going to abstain.
It's not that one.
Oh, it's not that one?
No. It's the one from the 1912
study,
the Jamaican
firefly?
one. It is this one. No, not that one. This one.
Oh.
Yeah. It's called Pyrophorus noctilucus. It is super bright. And here's a new unit for everyone.
Oh, no.
45 millilamberts. This one seems fake.
Who's Lambert?
I don't know.
Adam
It seems fake.
He's a star.
Just got you there.
So 1 Lambert is equal to 1 lumen reflected off a square centimeter of a perfectly diffusing surface.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. So put simply, a Lambert is how bright a surface appears to be.
Okay.
So the Guinness book says, and I've corroborated this elsewhere, that this insect, the P. noctilucus, we'll just call it Lucas, makes 45 millilamberts, which is pretty good. Another study of Taiwanese fireflies, because I wanted to double check the Guinness book, because I don't know if you know this, nobody's checking the Guinness book. They're not out there being
way
like,
longer toenails.
Excuse me, these toenails were 2 millimeters shorter than they're not out there doing that. They're self-checking. But another study of Taiwanese fireflies, which are considered quite bright, this specific species, which are this one.
You tricked me.
The Abscondida serrata. The A serratas are a study in 2022, put them in a little teeny box that they could breathe and, sit there, and measured their glow at the point that it came out. So they had this little sensor right underneath their glowy butt, and they measured 14 lux because, again, they can't just use the same unit. It's very frustrating. But if you assume a perfectly reflective surface, you can start to
cross lumens and Lamberts
and lux and Lamberts and candelas. Yeah. And so the Abscondida serrata 14 lux equals 1.4 millilamberts, meaning the Jamaican Lucas firefly is 32 times brighter.
No wonder that 1912 old-timey guy was like, I have to document this.
Yeah, it's so bright. So if we assume a 100% reflective surface with the Pyrophorus noctilucus, the Lucas firefly, and you convert everything from the lumens from the flashlight people, and we start kind of putting it all together, the Pyrophorus noctilucus has 45 millilamberts, which equals 143 lumens per meter squared steradian.
Right.
Yeah. But if you make it a centimeter squared to try and get to eyeball sized, because we're trying to make someone blind with as many fireflies as we can, so we need to look at their eyeball, give them as many lumens as we can, you end up with about 0.0143 lumens, because smaller area, fewer lumens. So if I flash that onto a perfectly reflecting thing or into your eye,
bounces into your eye,
it's not going to blind you.
Okay.
Just one. But now we know how many lumens one makes. So we can do some math.
Great. They love it. They love math.
We love math on this podcast.
Big fans of math in an audio format.
So let's say we all go to Jamaica. Welcome.
Sweet.
It's going to be great.
That's why you wore the shirt.
The shirt. That's where the Noctilucus lives. We capture as many as we can. We put them inside of this box that we've invented, that we've built, that has a perfectly reflective surface on the inside. We're putting a whole bunch of fireflies in here, and we're going to just magically make them all glow at the same time. Then then you add a 1 centimeter squared eyepiece at one end, and we take Julian out into a dark field.
Oh, no.
I'm so glad it's you and not me.
And we flip open the eyepiece and he looks in. How many fireflies do you think you're going to need in that box? Any guesses?
Thousands? Tens of thousands?
Let's do multiple choice. How many think hundreds of fireflies? Raise your hand. Nobody. How many think, say, thousands of fireflies? Couple? More than thousands. Most people. Turns out they're about 10 and 14 millimeters long. You need only 80 lumens. So you only need about 1,800 fireflies.
Oh, that's so doable.
It seems doable. Any guess how much 1,800 fireflies would weigh?
I don't know.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
Really?
More than you
Fireflies?
think. Yeah, because they're each about 10 to 14 millimeters. They weigh about 0.3 grams. So you're looking at about a half a kilo, like a basketball weight.
Okay, so
of
a pound.
fireflies. Yeah, you're gathering a pound of fireflies
That's
to put
not
inside
bad.
of our box.
You can carry that.
Yeah. As my portable blind-o-matic. Here, I want to show you something real quick.
But it's just temporary blindness.
Yeah.
Which I think that fits the question.
But enough
right?
to like pickpocket them, right?
Yeah, you have just a second. You've blinded them.
Enough for petty crimes. Okay.
Right. But let's say you're an evil Bond villain and you want to permanently blind someone. So now we need 10,000 lumens of fireflies. We're going to ask the same question again. We've got hundreds. Nobody's going to say that.
Obviously, no. Yeah.
Thousands.
Still too low.
Tens of thousands. Got somebody. Hundreds of thousands. 222,222 fireflies is the
That's
answer.
such a neat number, though.
It is a neat number.
Or is it just twos?
Because it's 0.45 lumens to
Right.
10,000
Math.
fireflies.
Right.
So any guesses how much
that would weigh?
67 kilograms.
Okay.
One beer keg.
As much as me.
Yeah.
You'd need
One
my entire
human
body
being
of fireflies.
worth of fireflies. Again, all flashing at the same time in the same direction without obscuring each other in a room.
And somebody gullible
perfectly
enough
reflectively.
to be like,
We
hey,
know somebody gullible enough.
I've come in from the dark field.
You
wanted to see that, show me that thing?
Yes. Here. Look in here.
Yeah.
And now Julian wears an eye patch.
Forever blind.
That's going to be great. So that is really the answer for Sarah. There
That
is
That 10 million Fireflies song by Owl City would be an
Oh my
apocalyptic
God,
event.
it would be awful.
That would be
I mean, we're looking at mass blindness.
an absolute outbreak of optical destruction. Thanks to
I feel
Owl
like
City.
if you had that many and you put them in a perfectly reflective box, it wouldn't even matter.
That
if
song's
you're
not nearly as
you're in-
romantic
it's
anymore.
Trouble. That is trouble.
He hates that person he wrote that song about.
10 million
Fireflies.
No, that would be great. So in reality, Sarah, wherever you are, there is no way to blind somebody with fireflies in nature. It's not going to happen. They're not bright enough. They are bright to our eyes. And I want to talk a little bit about that because we've talked about this on the podcast before. But light is weird and our eyes are also weird. Have you ever looked up at the moon with your eyes and then tried to take a picture of it with your phone and you're like, that looks so much further away in my phone and I can't
unsatisfying.
see it and it's just a big bright dot, and then you move your phone and you look at it with your eyes and you see all this detail and it kind of looks bigger. And because our eyes and our brain are amazing and we're constantly recalibrating how we're absorbing all of that information. Have you heard of a supermoon before? Right. It's a not astronomical term. I have a show called Stargazers on PBS where I talk about astronomy every week. And a supermoon is an episode we always do. Astronomers could not care less about supermoons. But I like it and I like to talk about it because it's something that resonates with people because the moon is brighter and larger. And so people want to go out and look at it. Anytime I can get people to look at the sky, that's a win. It's also called perigee, which is fun to say.
Good band name.
It's a good band name. So perigee means the moon is at its closest point in its orbit because all orbits aren't perfectly circular. So it's closer to the Earth than usual. And then syzygy means three bodies are lined up. The sun, the Earth, and the moon are all in a line. So perigee syzygy means it's close to us and in a line with the sun. So it's getting a lot of light. So it feels brighter, feels closer. It's only about 8% larger, though. A super moon.
Yeah. Just a little bigger.
Yeah, about 14% brighter. Not that much brighter. But it feels so much brighter because of how our eyes absorb light and how we process it. Did anybody see the Great American Eclipse last year? Anybody go? Yeah, it was amazing, wasn't it? Right. Did you notice that it was pretty boring for most of it? Right? Like you couldn't even tell. You could put your glasses on, you look up at the sky, and the moon's covered half the sun, and you can't even tell when you take your glasses off. The average person wouldn't even know. In fact, it would take about 90% coverage before most people even realize that the eclipse is happening. Because our eyes are constantly compensating for how much light to try and keep it pretty even. So we are experiencing the world at a pretty even way. Once you get to 95% coverage, most people notice. At 99% coverage, it's still bright out. It's about as bright as like a cloudy day, like maybe an evening. And then between 99% and 100, it's like a switch flips and it's incredible. And can you imagine living before knowing it was coming and all of a sudden you're like, hey, Julian, have you been to Carl's house yet?
No,
and then
I
all of a sudden it's like,
the sky is angry at us.
Carl!
What have we
Carl's
done?
house! You know, like all of a sudden out of nowhere. And that is why they're so amazing. But also our eyes are constantly adjusting how that light is coming in. In reality, if you looked at a graph of how much light is hitting, like the number of lumens hitting a square meter, it's a linear because the moon is moving at a straight shot. It's blocking the sun in a pretty even way. And so it's just our eyes that make this like crazy drop off at that very end moment. So even though the bottom line is no fireflies would blind somebody, what I wanted to talk about is how crazy light is and how crazy it is that we can't pick one unit.
After all this time.
That
That guy in 1912 had settled on one and we ignored his work.
And we ignored his work.
I literally went caving with a group of people in West Virginia when I was at camp, and they did it at night because their rationale was that you don't need light to go in a cave, which is
The flashlight people would argue, I think, on that point.
I mean, you need a flashlight anyway. So they could do it at night because then we could do the other things during the day. And when we came out, there was an almost blinding quantity of green fireflies all flashing in the woods. And I literally had spots on my eyes from that experience.
Did you count how many there are? Because you could have saved Trace a lot of time.
Yeah, geez. Wow. This whole episode could have just been like...
I nearly became your creepy bad guy, except I'm not an entomologist. I'm a geologist. And that's probably my mistake.
That's the only thing that saved you.
Yeah. Amazing.
You're not going to tell us what the entomologist does with his
Oh, you're right.
Trying to take over the world.
Yeah, you're killing me.
I'm sorry. So he reaches out to touch the kryptonite, and as soon as he does, fireflies start swirling around him, but it's like early 2000s, so the CGI is really bad, and like they're just kind of blurry. And then all of a sudden, you see him again, right? Because it's TV, so you cut. And the next time, he's at a coffee shop. Let's make him a she, because we're at Smith College, right? So she's at a coffee shop. She's an entomologist. She's awesome. She has her glasses on. But then she takes them off because she doesn't need them anymore because she's super now, hinting to you that like something's changed. She's sweating a lot, right? And she reaches out to shake someone's hand and it's like a little sticky. And you're like, why is that? You know, this is, come on, you guys can picture this as like a teenage drama, like kind of show where Superman is 16 years old and has to save the day. And he, you know, he's an entomologist or she's an entomologist. So she's giving a presentation at school and maybe like Clark is in the class, right? They always try and like kidnap somebody or do something silly like that. And it's almost always one of the main characters. So kidnaps Lana Lang, who is the main character, and takes her off into the cave where the fireflies are to turn her into his firefly mate so they can flash at each other or something.
Yeah.
But Clark tries to save the day because he has a crush on Lana. So he's there. He's trying to save the day. And then he's running away because Clark can never be the bad guy. So then the entomologist, she gets hit by a car or something.
On the windshield?
Because it's a bug.
Smattered?
Yeah. Because there's always a resolution. And it's a lot of people end up either disappeared or destroyed in some capacity. And I'm like, this is a small town. It's literally called Smallville. And there are 217 episodes of people. There's more than the problem with the kryptonite.
And
There's
how
like,
often are problems solved by just pedestrian vehicular accidents? Or is this the only one?
A few times.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's more than I expected.
Yeah. It was a couple times. Anyway.
Okay.
Thank you for listening to this episode of That's Absurd. Please elaborate, everyone. And especially all of you here
thank you so much
in the
for
room with
being
us.
here, for coming out. This was so fun and unique for us. And like, just thank you for participating and being a part of this.
This was our first time doing this live, and we could not have done it without Smith College. So a big round of applause for Smith College and for Weina Lu for putting it on.
Thank you so much. And
of course, for Naila for coming on and being our guest. Thank you for that. As well.
So Naila, you've got a ton of stuff going on. If people want to find you or find your work, what can they do? Where can they go?
Yeah, they can go to my website, NailaMoriera.com, or they can find me on Instagram at NailaFinn, Naila_Finn. And my book is coming out in paperback this August. It's called The Monarchs of Winghaven. So look for it.
Oh, any superpowered monarch butterfly related characters in it?
Yeah.
They're kids.
Okay.
But they're not quite superpowered. No, this is realistic fiction.
Gotcha.
Oh.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's got an ecological theme.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, it's saving nature.
We're big fans of that. That's the real superhero work. Thank you so much, Naila. I really appreciate you being
Thank you
here
so
and
much
sharing
for
with us
having
today. Yeah.
Thank you so much. To you at home, thank you for listening to this episode of That's Absurd. Please elaborate. It was written, produced, and created by myself, Trace Dominguez, and my friend here, Julian Huguet. It was edited by our friend, and maybe if he touched kryptonite, I think he would be a supervillain.
Yeah, audio engineering supervillain, Kyle Sisk.
And we want to thank our patrons who helped support this show. We couldn't have bought all of the equipment that made it possible for us to do this live show without our patrons. So thank you to them, and thank you to you at home for listening.
Yeah. Thanks again to Smith College, Weina Lu, and to our cameraman, Tom Adams, also as well. We hope to see you again soon on another episode of That's Absurd. Please elaborate. Yay! Thanks so much, Dave.